Hello, Narnach here. Welcome back to Path of Exile. Playing in the hardcore solo self-found Legacy League as a witch, and we finally have a Flameblast for ourselves. Look at that. That's a demonic Flameblast for you. So let's first go over a couple of changes before we're gonna go after the act bosses of Act 3 or Piety and Dominus. We are using Flameblast. Flameblast, as people have pointed out, it's a little bit sluggish to cast because if you pay attention to the top left corner, you see that it builds up charges, and at 10 charges it's basically gonna stay where it is. Those are damage bonuses, so you want to get to 10 as soon as possible and then release for maximum impact. If you have faster casting and you reach that point faster, no surprise there. So faster casting with quality is pretty nice to get there quickly. The thing is, monsters move around. So if you're standing there casting and the monster moves out of the area that you're trying to highlight, then you're wasting your Flameblast. So the faster you can maximize it, the better it is. Also, using your minions or a decoy totem to pin monsters in place does help you get your Flameblast off with a little bit more success. Next up, Controlled Destruction. It's a spell more damage multiplier. Applies to the initial hit. If you happen to trigger Ignite, that is of course not a spell, so that should not get affected. Alternatively, there is Concentrated Effect, which gives you more area damage. I think as an area damage, the area tag will carry over to the Ignite. So from a pure damage perspective, this is better to socket. The downside of Concentrated Effect is your surface area is smaller and the mana multiplier is slightly higher, and since you want to get to 10 charges as soon as possible, you will be slurping through your mana. Finally, we have a chance to ignite in order to hopefully ignite our foes and do a lot more damage. The reason I have a chance to ignite already is that I tagged the Lunaris 1 waypoint here, and then I went to the library, cleared the quest there, and actually bought myself a chance to ignite from Ciosa. I'm currently level 33, slightly over leveled because of course I did some extra areas. If I were to do it all over again, I would not even grab the Lunaris waypoint first. I would actually go to the Ebony Barracks, kill Graphices, and then move over to the Gardens and then to the library and go straight for the quest there. Because killing Graphices allows you to get Flameblast as a reward from Maramoa, and then Chance to Ignite is among the rewards that you can get from Ciosa for the book quest. At Ciosa you can also buy Fire Penetration. Thing is, you need more strength for that, so for now that's not really useful. Also 40% damage multiplier, so it's a little on the expensive side. I still happen to have an increased area of effect. It's level 38. Normally you can only buy it once you get to Act 4, but I happen to have one. And as backup, in case I want to swap out, we still have Firestorm with us. Let's see, we still carry zombies with some damage and life around, Flame Dash with faster casting, Vaal Lightning Trap, Vaal Discipline, Clarity, some Decoy Totem, and a Discipline Aura. Look at all the swirlies. Orb of Storms, eventually we want to socket this with a Curse on Hit. Thing is, we don't have Curse on Hit yet because that requires Act 4, and that's going to be linked with Flammability. So, in terms of gear, I have been slowly upgrading it. I think we were using this wand before. Ring, some life and resist. Body armor, life and resist. Helmet, life and resist. Still using a talisman here with some life and some resist. Life and mana regen. Actually pretty nice, getting some rings with mana regen instead of resists is not a bad roll, because of the aforementioned lust for mana. A little bit of strength, a little bit of life. Remember, strength is life. Life resists, life and resist, and life and resist. And it's only because I actually got 40 life on this one that I let go of boots with movement speed. And it was a tough trade, because having movement speed is very nice.
You either master nightmare.
But the upside is we are now maxed out on our resists without actually having to use Purity of Flames or Purity of Elements. So all we're running around with is Clarity and Discipline right now. Those are the only two active auras. Always such a lovely place with all the screaming in the background. Very atmospheric. And a fully channeled Flameblast definitely hurts. Oh, and the buff you saw up there is Elemental Overload. I just managed to grab it. So where we left off last time, I went for Melding. Then I grabbed a Jewel socket up here to get myself a Jewel with some resist and some mana. And after that I went for Elemental Overload. So if we crit, we do 40% more elemental damage for 8 seconds. So having played around a little bit with Flameblast, you don't have to always max it out. It does a lot more damage when you do max it out. But if you don't max it out, then you can actually just use it to just tag things. Just like that. You can just rapidly click it and then it's just gonna hit for the absolute minimum amount of 112 damage. But if you then set it on fire, fire burns quite a bit. But it does become more effective the more you channel it. Okay, Emperor and the safe. Hey, haven't opened one of these yet. Nice, that's some pre-leveled gems. Anything interesting in here? Nothing relevant for this build. That's unfortunate, but it is yet another thing to check off of the list of stuff we need to grab for an achievement. So I'm happy with that. Or challenges, technically. Challenges, achievements, potato, potato. Push. So the playstyle switching from Firestorm to Flameblast does take a little bit of getting used to. Because you are standing in place while channeling, your positioning is more important. And there is a delay before the damage kicks in, because of course while you're channeling nothing happens. It's not until you release it and the actual explosion kicks in that you deal damage. So, pro tip, don't do the switch just before you are about to do a boss fight. Take a couple of areas to get used to it. Play around with the different support gems that you can attach to it and really get comfortable with it before moving forward. Because otherwise, things might end up unpleasant. I suppose that one of the skills that you'll eventually want to develop is knowing when to stop channeling, so you are mana efficient. On the other hand, if you just have a mana flask with you, it's not so bad. Because you can do quite some damage with this. Ah. And let's see, Yoga Scepter. Meh. Actually, I can say meh, but it's elemental damage rather than simple spell damage. So boosting percentage elemental damage is actually gonna be more effective. That doesn't really look all that great. Oh, there's a load of them. And of course, elementals don't have corpses. So you can't raise zombies from them. The zombies, you definitely notice by this point that I'm not putting any points into minion related skills. So they are starting to become a bit on the more fragile end. I have to frequently replace them. But they don't really have to last much longer. They have to last until I make it to Act 4 and we defeat Vol. After that, we can get ourselves a golem. Other way? Yeah. There we go. Most of the time it's to the left, not to the right. All these changes in direction, they are confusing me. $34 to life, that's decentish. So, ooh, hello there. Hey there. And it's in a circle, and it's on fire, and it's pretty much dead. So, the totem with Scorching Ray, it's a resistance penalty that you stack on the enemies. Definitely helps to deal more damage. Against normal foes doesn't really matter, but against rares and the things that are a little more on the tough end, it's nice to have. Let's refresh the zombies for one more time. And then it's a moment of truth. Well, moment of truth, 1 out of 2, of course, because after Piety there is a Dominus.
Of all the worlds you could have conquered, you had to choose mine. Such power wasted on a feeble imagination.
Piety, there. Oh, that was a nice timing. Okay, I don't like it anymore. Is that a teleporter marker? Yeah, that's a little too early. Yeah, let's make it explode in the circle. She starts moving, simply fail, and there she is.
I loved your work, Piety. It was you I wasn't very fond of.
Life flask. Okay, not quite what I wanted. Okay. So we'll just put this nicely in a stash over here. And then we will move on with our life. Because we also have a hot date with Dominus. But first, a chat with Krijger. And get ourselves some skill points. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so after heading over here, next point on my list is going to be Purity of Flesh. Well, originally it was going to be Purity of Flesh. Now I'm actually more inclined to head down here to Quick Recovery because this boosts our mana regen. And mana management is one of the things that is a little more active on my mind than getting more alive. So that's good. Okay, we will be... yes, hotkeys, so many. We are going to be traveling through the Imperial Gardens. And then after that we can simply reattach these things. So they apply in the tower itself. Okay, get ourselves some minions. Oh, come on. Almost dead, yes. Okay, getting very close to Dingage. And then let's start it on some life and some mana regen. Of course, the less flasks you have to drink, the more reliable your build's gonna be. The more stable you will be in the longer protracted fights, like for example a Dominus fight. Okay, let's refresh a couple zombos. And onwards we march. Okay, there's a Nemesis in there. Okay, so there's this thing. If monsters are prone to following you and you don't like them being in your face, so you take a step backwards and then you start channeling, if they still follow you, then you will have to charge longer in order to actually reach them. So tactical movement in combat, if you are the focus of their attention, not the greatest of ideas. From a crafting perspective, I find myself using a lot of orbs of augmentation, so that's why I didn't craft anything extra on top of this chest. Because I actually prefer to keep the orbs of augmentation in order to augment my gear. Hey, silk rope, that looks like the next tier. Good, good. So elemental overload, it triggers from time to time. It's not something that's always up. The crit rate is simply too low for that. So for now I'm just running around with it. Not focusing on crits, so the 5% chance to do 50% more damage. In practice that means that on average your damage is going to be 2.5 times higher. So whether you have crit or not, by default, doesn't really matter from the damage perspective, or the critical multiplier that is. Then having elemental equilibrium, or elemental focus, overload, yes, overload, up. From time to time it does help. So, Katibro. Sorry, I can't use Geistman. So... Earlier I did buy myself a Doedri's Damning from Kadiro Bro deal. It's only 30 coins, so for a ring that gives you +1 to maximum curses. Pretty nice. Obviously not for this build, but well, 30 Perandus coins, then it is nice to shop for standard. Or another future build or whatever. Do you have movement? Life, but no movement. Too bad, this is not an upgrade. So if the counter is at the maximum, the surface does continue to grow a little bit as you keep channeling, so there is that. But it doesn't grow as fast as it does to actually reach the 10 stacks. It is something to keep an eye out for. It's definitely... There's a lot of things to keep in mind, at least this early. Well, while I'm still getting used to it, and while things like mana are not in a great shape yet. Though, obviously, once we get better mana regen, things like that, then life ought to get better. Hello, Kaliga. There you are. So a very highly mobile foe like this, difficult to deal with. But once you tag her, she's gone. Okay, that is not the way forward. Is that the way forward? Don't think so, but if we don't check, it turns out it will be. Exactly. Also, if you channel briefly and based on where the damage turns out, gives you a bit of a benchmark to know if you should aim or if you should channel shorter or longer than your initial hit. So you can use that to benchmark your attacks, let us say. So right now I'm trying to plop down the Orb of Storms in order to every once in a while get the Elemental Overload effect. On the other hand, I can also just grab Flammability as a manual cast right now. Oh, a Perceptor means the waypoint is somewhere near. And then Channel. One of the side effects of Flammability, in addition to the resistance piercing, is also that it increases the chance for foes to get ignited, which is nice. My Flameblast currently has a 31% chance to ignite things. That's all courtesy of the Ignite support gem. Also has a 5% chance to crit, so actually it's 36%. Well, roughly adding them. But if you then also Flameblast or Flammabilitify something, that's another 10%. So that takes you to 46% in total. So having the zombies just finish things off, it's rather convenient. And there is the waypoint. Excellent. Okay, then forwards to the Opticeptor. The Opticeptor of God. %20 fire resist on a fire ring is, I think, the worst roll you can get. Goes up to 30. I'm slowed. Ah, yeah, suppressing fire. Like that. Stop shooting things at me. I got chilled. That only means it's gonna take me even longer to cast things. To be honest, not really a big fan of getting slowed with this one. Oh, wait. Strongbox. Also, I got a suspicion there's a horrendous box in the corner there. Okay, nothing overly scary. Okay, the door's closed, and in that case, actually have a look here. Okay, not gonna get any add-ons from here. So, put a decoy totem up. Boom. Nice and easy. 2 hits, everything is gone. Silk slippers, unfortunately, of course, they are rare. Golems, or the zombies, they do take quite some punishment. They don't have any regen. Let's see, Hortus the knee breaker, has got some magic stuff over there, some regulars. Okay. Boom. There we go. And I want my zombies back. Like that. Now the zombies, they don't do great damage, but just the fact that they distract the enemies and allow me to just channel a little bit more undisturbed definitely makes it worthwhile to just bring them along until you got your golems. That said, level 34, wasn't the minimum level requirement of golems also 34? Yeah, on the other hand, I'm not entirely sure if I have a golem in my stash. And we're nearly in Dried Lake anyway, so golems will be obtained later. Or soon. Let's go with soon. Sounds a little better. Definitely will appreciate having more casting speed on this puppy. In Path of Building, I did some comparisons between a level 20 faster casting gem with 20% quality. That by itself increases your casting speed by 45%. And compared to that, just about every casting speed wheel on the skill tree is really meh compared to 45% increased casting speed. But no, that is something that you want to strive for. But right now I've got a level 5 casting speed. And then of course the bonus is going to be a little less impressive. So maybe picking up a single casting speed wheel while leveling and then just unspecking out of it once you hit yellow maps or something might be useful as well. Okay, got a suspicion it's not going to be through the outdoors but simply through the inner bits. And there we are, now staircase. This is where the Scion resides, so that means we are in the room before Dominus now. Okay. So if you can more or less reliably set things on fire, then life is going to be pretty glorious. Because then even if you don't kill them with the initial hit, you know that the ignite will murder them. Might as well just make a quick town stop, just top up the final bits of our flasks here. So all our resistances are maxed, which is pretty useful. We got a decent life pool and energy shield pool for the normal Dominus fight. I usually try to aim for around 1200 life. In this case I also have another 800 energy shield on top of that, plus some minions. So let's see what we can make of this.
Goodbye to the master that called you here.
33 area, I am 34, so I'm actually pretty on level. Okay, let's hide items just to make it a little easier to see what the heck is happening. Okay, there. Let's just throw our totem in, of course, and then you jump on top of me. Can I say I don't appreciate what you're doing here, mister? Okay. Okay, so while playing, definitely a little more awkward than some of my previous fights. Just because it feels like I'm still getting used to managing multiple things here. Hello, dummy. Here. Get wrecked. Do you know that's not really a nice thing to say to someone? Oi.
The touch of God. Shrink not from God.
So trying to keep my minions alive here, really just exercising futility. This is probably the point where you should just give up on your minions. There we go. Next stage. Can we get little distractions in? Yep, we can. Okay, stay in the circle to avoid getting bled upon. Put on a lightning trap for some shock action. Curse him and then explode him. Okay, if he's just standing still like this, he is a lot easier to deal with. Okay.
Dominus, not a soul.
And that was interesting. If your foe is standing still and you're essentially tanking him, then you definitely have an advantage. If the foe is a bit more mobile, it's a little more difficult. On the other hand, maybe in the initial fight I should have used Divine Lightning Trap, but most of the time if I have issues it's in the second stage, so that's why I tend to use my Val skills for that. Now that Dominus is dead, let's look at our gear. Do a little bit of upgrading. First change we're gonna make is we're gonna drop the talisman that gives us +1 to zombies, some life and some resists. Because, as you notice, the zombies are kind of... We are past the point where zombies really add a lot of value. So instead, I switched to this lovely Bonespire talisman. It boosts our mana, it boosts our life, and it boosts our damage. 77 to max life this early on is pretty darn sweet. So that is, it's nice. And the 28 to increase maximum mana. It increases the size of our mana pool, and by doing so it also increases our mana regeneration rate. So this is just wins all around. Next up, our belt. This founded as a white belt, then used a couple of or a transmute and I think a couple of alterations in order to get it to the +52 max life. And then I had a look, I had a consideration. You can craft resistances on top of belts, just like you can do, for example, with helmets. But when I was looking at it, I realized that the tiers or the damage, the resistance range that you can craft on belts is actually lower on belts than on helmets. I know the +30 to cold resistance on the helmet here is the same price as it would be to craft 21 to 25 resistance onto a belt. So it's actually a little bit more efficient to craft resistances on your armor than it is to craft it on your jewelry. Or at least on your belt and some other things like bows, wands and quivers. So yeah. For now, I decided not to do that. Also, I realized the strength from this one is actually what I depend on for using the decoy totem and the spell totem over here. So I figured let's roll an orb of augmentation, and I got lucky and I got +17 to strength. Otherwise, it would have been probably into the bin or at least into the stash and hoping for something else that provides some strength. So we can upgrade that one as well. The fact that I'm swapping items around resets my gems because it briefly flickered in and out of equipable status. And finally we have a ring over here that has 7 to all resist. And I could craft some life on top. 35 to 44 life, but it's going to be 4 chaos. That's a rather steep price. So let's actually have a look. We just increased our mana regen by virtue of increasing the size of our mana pool. So yeah, losing a little bit of life here takes a little bit off are our resistances good? Because of course, if you're investing in crafting on a ring, you really want to make sure that it's not going to be a ring that you really can't use. And currently we got 6 Chaos Orbs. That's spending 4 Chaos for that, I don't think so. So let's just try to craft something on top and a little bit of evasion. Yeah. Well, we do have some more evasion from some other sources. So 21% chance to evade attacks. It's all a little bit help, right? I don't think we have it actually as a fixed amount from anywhere else. So this is going to be the base amount you get by default. Augmented a little bit by your dexterity. But yeah, a very brief crafting session at the end of the episode. So I hope you enjoyed it. And with that, I'm going to thank you very much for watching. And I hope to see you again next time when we take on Act 4. Bye bye.